Posted August 11, 2018, 6 hours 6 minutes and 4 seconds. Pacific Island rugby groups are calling for greater representation on the World Rugby Council, saying that the Pacific barely has a voice on the governing body despite Pacific Islanders making up 1 in 5 players. Key points. Pacific Islanders are 15% of the teams but only a fraction of the voters. Previous governance and financial issues have held Pacific Island groups back. Voting allocates more votes to certain countries over to others under a tier system. As it stands, the island's influence at the top table is limited to a share of Oceania Rugby's 2 of 48 votes, with the umbrella organisation also representing the interests of New Zealand and Australia. The group Pacific Rugby Players Welfare (PRPW) has launched a social media drive called At the 2015 Rugby World Cup, 21.4% of all players were of Pacific Island descent, with 15% of those players representing Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. The push comes after South African comedian Trevor Noah caused a global stir for highlighting the diverse racial makeup of France's victorious FIFA World Cup team, saying it was really a win for Africa. "We'd like to see a fairer model in line with FIFA." Founder and chief executive of Pacific Rugby Players Welfare, former Manu Samoa international Dan Leo, told the ABC they would like to see reform of the whole system. "In some cases you've got countries that have 3 full votes and wield up to 10% influence, and then you've got the Pacific Islands who have 0.3%, Mr. Leo said. "We'd like to see a fairer model in line with what FIFA operate." Key grievances of the Pacific Rugby Players Welfare Group. Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji shared just 2 of the 48 total votes, with 9 other countries from the Oceania region. This includes Australia and New Zealand, both of whom have 3 votes of their own each. The 3 Pacific Island nations' vote share is equal to just 1% of the total vote at the World Rugby Council. Meanwhile, they say countries like Canada, Georgia, Romania, and the US each hold more than 2% influence. Japan, with 2 votes to itself, holds 12 times the influence of Samoa. Yet Samoa provides more than 10 times the amount of professional players. Italy, 14th in world rankings, 5 places lower than Fiji and 2 lower than Tonga, has 7.1% of the vote, or 20 times that of Fiji and Tonga. It wouldn't be a one-country, one-vote system, not immediately anyway, but it could be based on World Cup qualifications. World Rugby have rejected the push for greater representation, and said that World Cup qualification is already part of the existing tier voting system, which they've maintained as a clear, transparent, and fair pathway to securing votes on the World Rugby Council. But critics argue that when it comes to matters of finance and governance, the rules are weighted against the Pacific Unions. Rules put Pacific Unions at disadvantage. Critics say Samoan Prime Minister Tuilaipa Salele told the ABC last year that the Samoan Rugby Union (SRU) was bankrupt. However, the SRU's chief executive Vincent Febelei said while they might be cash poor, they've managed to meet World Rugby Council's criteria. "We believe we have ticked the boxes that World Rugby has set for the 3 Pacific Island unions, and we are just going through the process of preparing our application for a seat in Council," he said. Rugby Players Association CEO Aidan Clark praised the current leadership of the SRU. "Vincent's done some fantastic work overhauling SRU's governance," he said. "They're going to get that seat on the council by merit, not through a campaign." After Oceania Rugby's annual review in Sydney, it appears Fiji is also on target for a council seat. Mr. Febelei said he supported the PRPW's social media push but did not believe it was necessary. "We've engaged with Daniel Leo, and we wish him well on his campaign, but definitely Samoa Rugby Union, we have our own representatives," he said. A strong case to reassess. Mr. Clark said Mr. Leo's organisation have a case to win a vote on the World Rugby Council. From World Rugby's perspective, I suppose they want to maintain the integrity of the game in terms of which people are in those seats, he said, but whether that's right or wrong, I think Pacific Rugby players' welfare have a good point in terms of the system possibly needs to be revisited. The more we have former players like Dan speaking their mind, that's great. For us to have these issues discussed and at the forefront, that's fantastic. What we've got to be careful of, it's a social media campaign, and sometimes it can be detrimental to the process. However, Mr. Leo argues that process still leaves the Pacific Islands short on power. We really want to step the campaigning up and achieve fairness and equity for the Pacific Islands. It's an education process, a slow burner, but it does feel like we're getting somewhere now, he said. Comment has been sought from the World Rugby Council. Topics: sport, rugby union, community and society, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Pacific.